I must confess to you, I do worry a lot about the relationship between China and India, because relations between China and India, they're not bad. They're very bad. Trust is overrated in international relations. As Reagan said, you trust but you verify. But if you want to manufacture anything, let's say EVs, batteries, if you don't get Chinese components, you cannot succeed. So there is some degree of new thinking going on in India. So I would say there's a possibility of relations between India and China improving.
喺睇片之前，大家記得分享、讚好同訂閱灼見名家，最緊要撳埋呢個鐘仔，咁你就唔會錯過我哋嘅最新影片。
For those of us who follow your numerous YouTubes on your speeches and interviews, you will appreciate your humor. Amazed at your mastery of all kinds of statistics and your very acute analysis of geopolitical situations, and that is why I call you the rock star of modern geopolitics.
Thank you.
You mentioned Trump. My opinion is, had Trump had his second term then, he would have doubled down on the liaison with Russia, North Korea, and India. Would he have totally isolated China? But in today's situation, it's the reverse. And so I look at what a seasoned politician, Brzezinski, wrote in his book, The Grand Chessboard, that you know. The most dangerous coalition would be China, India, China, Russia, and possibly Iran, who get together not because of shared ideology, but for common grievances.
Yes.
What would your opinions on those?
I add one thing for that excellent question. Do you think Putin will trust the United States?
Those are very, very difficult questions. Now, I think the first point I want to make is that China, Russia, Iran are very strong, powerful, traditional states. They have their own history, their own experiences, their own memories, right? And the interests of these three are not naturally aligned at all. However, if the three of them are feeling pressure from the West, as they are, then there will be a temporary alliance. But if you look at my book, Has China Won? I explain at some length why even the China-Russia alliance is not natural. It's being driven by coalition of forces that are happening. And so I would say that you should be prepared for a lot of fluidity in the global system. Because I do believe at some point in time, Europe has got to come to terms with its neighbor, Russia. It's going to live with Russia for the next 1,000 years. It cannot alienate Russia for the next 1,000 years. It's got to find a way of compromising. And at some point in time, there will be compromises and there won't be these hard divisions that you see in the world today.
Yeah.
Your question about Putin, trust is overrated in international relations. As Reagan said, you trust but you verify. At the end of the day, what enables countries to cooperate is never trust, but coincidence of national interests. If it's in my interest to cooperate with you, then I'll cooperate with you. So even if I like you, if my interests don't converge, I say, thank you very much, we're not cooperating.
Thank you very much, Prof. Kishore. It's lovely to see you here. My question's about the CIA countries. Essentially, we see between China and India tensions revolving around the LAC, Arunachal Pradesh, tensions over TikTok and a banning of apps and protectionism from Delhi, but also a deep suspicion of India's intentions coming from Beijing. On the other hand, when it comes to ASEAN, of course, the South China Sea right now is a powder keg with Bongbong Marcos in the Philippines, in many ways lashing out and also acting out on behalf of what he sees to be grievances in ASEAN towards China over Navy patrols and also China's claims over territories there. How exactly can Beijing, if you were to sit down with Wang Yi or Xi Jinping, what advice would you give to them on resolving the tensions and also ameliorating the difficulties in relation to both ASEAN countries and also India? And are you optimistic about the prognosis in the relationships between the three parties? Thank you very much.
Well, I think I must confess to you, I do worry a lot about the relationship between China and India, because relations between China and India, they're not bad. They're very bad. And you describe it with the actions that have been taken. But at the end of the day, I also believe that both sides are rational actors. And in the case of India, the goal of India is to emerge effectively as the third most powerful pole in a multipolar world. And the best way for India to emerge is to cooperate with as many countries as possible. And now you can see more and more articles coming out in the Indian media saying that if India is to succeed in becoming a manufacturing power, it cannot cut off Chinese imports. It's got to get Chinese input. If you want to manufacture anything, let's say EVs, batteries, if you don't get Chinese components, you cannot succeed. So there is some degree of new thinking going on in India. So I would say there's a possibility of relations between India and China improving. In the case of the Philippines, Philippines is a fellow ASEAN member state. The one piece of advice I would give to Philippines is that dealing with China requires a policy that you can continue not for the next 10 years, not for the next 100 years, but for the next 1,000 years. So you've got to work out a consistency in your policy. Now, sadly, in the case of Philippines, when you had President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, pro-China, President Aquino, pro-US, President Duterte, pro-China, and then President Marcos today, clearly closer to US. And that kind of inconsistency is very dangerous for any mid-sized state. So Philippines should learn from Vietnam how you work out a policy that enables you to get along with China and to stand up to China. You must be able to do both, but you must be consistent and predictable.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
中意名家分析，記得俾 like 同埋分享，支持同訂閱卓見名家，最緊要撳埋呢個鐘仔，咁就唔會錯過我哋嘅新片。